It's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker this evening. Karen Bloom is in her first year as region president of the Central Pacific Coast region of Hadasah. She previously served as the Regional Jewish and Israel Education Chair, Regional VP of Membership, and Region OVP, and was also secretary of your local chapter for many years. Karen has been a life member of Hadasah since the age of 7, carrying on the tradition of her mother and both grandmothers. In her spare time, Karen is a middle school math teacher at Piedmont Middle School, where she's also been the co-advisor of several clubs, such as No Place for Hate, Safe Space Club, the Jewish Club, the Mathletes, and the Safe School Ambassadors. In addition, she's volunteered with many community groups related both directly and indirectly to her work. Community groups like the Piedmont Anti-Racism and Diversity Committee, Piedmont Racial Equity Campaign, Showing Up for Racial Justice, Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, and more. Karen is married to Rabbi Mark Bloom, who famously was the song leader here, I believe, and who now serves Temple Beth Abraham in Oakland, so you must have trained him well. They have 2 adult sons, Micah and Jonah, and Rabbi Bloom, Micah, and Jonah are all Hadasah associates as well. I thought I should mention that. We're really delighted to have you, Karen, to speak to us about Hadasah. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, everyone. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for having me, and a big thank you to the Tri-City chapter of Hadasah for this beautiful Shabbat celebration that we're all going to enjoy after services as well. For those of you who are not familiar with Hadasah, the Women's Zionist Organization of America, our organization was founded by Henrietta Zold in 1912, a mere 113 years ago. After she traveled from her Baltimore home to visit what was then called Palestine, where she saw the dire need for basic nutrition, education, sanitation, and medical care. She returned to Baltimore and organized her women's study group to raise enough money to send 2 nurses to Palestine. This was the very beginning seed that led to the Hadasah Medical Organization that we now call HMO. Hadasah is HMO and so much more. We, the women of Hadasah, the Women's Zionist Organization of America, are volunteers who focus on the land, the people, and the future of Israel. Hadasah changes lives in Israel, the US, and worldwide through medicine and women's health, education, advocacy, and youth development. We, the women of Hadasah, are the owners, not just supporters, of 2 hospital campuses in Jerusalem, Ein Kerem and Mount Scopus, and 2 youth aliyah villages north of Tel Aviv on the coast of Israel, Meir Shveya and Hadasah Norim. We are 300,000 members and supporters strong, and we are an important part of Jewish life in America. Since October 7th, 2023, more than ever before in Israel's history, our enemy, we call Amalek, which is today's Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthis, etc., other external extremists and enemies, have violated Israel's borders, shattering that tenuous peace that has characterized everyday life in Israel for the last number of years. Hamas ruthlessly and brutally tortured and murdered innocent civilians, some in their beds and safe rooms, others peacefully dancing at a music festival. Hamas also took 250 people hostage, and 58 of them remain held captive in Gaza. Since that fateful October day, Israel's IDF has been forced to fight in an ongoing war. The country and many Jews from around the world suffer and mourn for every Israeli and Palestinian who has been killed during this war. Once again, as it has countless times since its founding, Hadasah, the Women's Zionist Organization of America, has intensified its efforts to support Hadasah's hospitals and youth Aliyah villages. This support is in line with Hadasah's core mission, the healing of the people of Eretz Yisrael. Since 1933, when the youth Aliyah movement first began, Hadasah has been supporting its youth Aliyah villages. Following extensive renovations, the Psychological Therapy Center at the Meir Shveya Youth Village near Haifa was dedicated in late 2024 as the Ellen Hershkin Therapeutic Center in honor of our 26th national president, Ellen Hershkin. At the Hadasah Nurim Youth Village near Netanya, the spacious redesigned emergency shelter was opened. That shelter will serve as a secure space and as a leisure and activity center year-round. It will be a secure space and command center during emergencies. I think that's important to add. I didn't want to skip that. In response to the urgent need for rehabilitation services for Israel's wounded soldiers and civilians, Hadasah opened the Gandel Rehabilitation Center on Mount Scopus in January of 2024, 4 months ahead of schedule. This 323,000 square foot, 8-story center offers a host of special treatments, including physical and occupational therapy, physiotherapy, hydrotherapy, and respiratory and orthopedic rehabilitation. It houses a PTSD center and rehabilitation for neurological problems caused by brain, spinal cord injuries, and nervous system injuries. Since the October 7th attack and the war that followed, there's been a dramatic increase in the need for rehabilitative care among wounded civilians and soldiers, as you can imagine. Hundreds have required and will continue to require weeks, months, and even years of specialized inpatient and outpatient rehabilitation for severe physical injuries, as well as psychological and mental health treatment. Hadasah physiotherapists treat patients suffering from a wide range of conditions, from neurological to orthopedic injuries, in a supportive and caring environment. The Gandel Rehabilitation Center, with its most up-to-date facilities, focuses on the specialized needs and goals of each individual that comes through its doors. The occupational therapy department is dedicated to improving the overall quality of life for our patients. Hydrotherapy is invaluable in helping patients ease pain throughout their regimen. Treatments take place in temperature-controlled warm water pools. The Gandel Rehabilitation Center is Hadasah's gift to the people of Israel, a gift given at a time when it was most critically needed. Here in the United States, Hadasah has been an outspoken advocate. Despite the overwhelming evidence that they have been presented with, UN leaders have never held Hamas accountable for the sexual violence its members perpetrated against men and women, nor has the UN taken decisive steps towards justice. During this year's 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, Hadasah, with its Education and Advocacy Division, took the lead among 65 organizations to call on the Secretary General and other UN leadership to stand up and show that sexual violence against women and girls will never be tolerated or excused. Holding perpetrators accountable is critical to deterring future use of sexual violence as a weapon of war. As a global humanitarian organization, Hadasah remains committed to standing up for women everywhere. Hadasah is proud of its long history. More than a century ago, Hadasah set up clinics and hospitals in pre-state Israel, curing blindness, containing the 1918 pandemic, and saving women from a, get this, 50% mortality rate. We are proud that in 2025, Newsweek magazine recognized Hadasah's hospitals for its pioneering use of smart technology. Newsweek also recognized the HMO, Hadasah Medical Organization, for its excellence in cardiology and oncology. Hadasah's leaders and members, all of us here in the United States, have raised funds to meet the urgent needs of our extended Israeli family. We have lobbied for U.S. and world support for Israel in light of the October 7th attack and against the anti-Semitic backlash faced by Jews in the U.S. and throughout the world. We've educated on evolving Zionism and on combating anti-Semitism. We have offered emotional support through solidarity missions to Israel for leaders and members of Hadasah chapters nationwide. Am Yisrael Chai is the prayer that is, and the call to action that is on our lips and in our hearts. Ultimately, we know that Israelis and Jews all over the world want peace to prevail. To quote former Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir, when peace comes, we will perhaps be in time able to forgive the Arabs for killing our sons, but it will be harder for us to forgive them for having forced us to kill theirs. Peace will come when Arabs love their children more than they hate ours. And current Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu famously quoted her, Golda Meir, when he said in 2006, if the Arabs put down their weapons today, there would be no more violence. If the Jews put down their weapons today, there would be no more Israel. Which means that sadly, Israel has to continue to use arms to defend itself as long as there are enemies who are continuing to try to wipe us off the face of the earth. To close, I have two short stories that will give you a taste of some of Hadasah's successes. Story number one is titled Los Angeles Stories. Two older men, one an octogenarian, one a nonagenarian, were hospitalized one floor apart in the Sarah Weissman Davidson Hospital Tower at Hadasah Ein Kerem in Jerusalem. Both, it turned out, were from Los Angeles. Mr. W, 92, is a project design engineer who made Aliyah with his wife, who was an active Hadasah member in Los Angeles. After a fall, he underwent head and neck surgery and was recovering in the general intensive care unit on the second floor. In the cardiac intensive care unit, just one floor above him, was a fellow Angelino, Mr. T, 84, a well-known Los Angeles politician and educator. Not well-known to me, but well-known. He's a tourist who came to visit his daughter, a popular social media journalist. Again, not popular to me, but popular. And their grandchildren. The daughter recognized that Dad was a bit pale and suffering from breathing problems when she came to pick him up at the hotel. The taxi driver helped her call the emergency service. When an ambulance arrived, she asked the medic where he would take his own father in such a situation. And you all know the answer. To Hadasah Ein Kerem. It's the best, he replied. Mr. T had life-threatening stenosis of the right artery and other heart complications. One of the cardiologists, Gabby Elbaz Greener, grew up in Kiryat Malachi, Hebrew for City of Angels, a twin city of Los Angeles. The top-of-the-line cardiac intensive care unit was donated by Moshe Silagi in memory of his beloved wife, Andrea Silagi, a Hadasah leader. May her memory be a blessing. Moshe and Andrea had picked out this life-saving room together as a donation before Andrea passed away from a rare cancer. Every day, the Silagis' gift is saving lives. And the Silagis, by the way, are also from Los Angeles. Mr. W is now in rehab, and Mr. T is back in Los Angeles. Last story, number two, lunch with friends saved his life. Shuval, 21, is a handsome brown-eyed paratrooper serving in the Judea and Samaria unit, which is confronting an upsurge in terrorism there. Shuval parked a communications utility vehicle, something similar to a closed Jeep, in Kalandia, north of Jerusalem. It was time for a lunch break for him and his two soldiers, who played an important role in transmitting real-time information to headquarters. Let's eat together, Shuval convinced the others. Shuval got out of his seat, took their food, and created a kind of picnic next to the vehicle. His back rested on the truck. Suddenly, there was a big clank of metal on metal, and their vehicle exploded in a massive blast. Unknowingly, they had parked on one of the many booby traps planted there by terrorists. The explosion was united by a solenoid battery, like the one that opens your car. The main blast was in the driver's seat. It was a miracle that I survived, said Shuval. He would have been dead if he hadn't left the vehicle to set up the picnic. Still, he was badly injured. He was crawling away, sure that his right leg was no longer part of his body, but fortunately, he was wrong. The expert orthopedists, led by Professor Yoram Weil and vascular surgeons, saved Shuval's leg and his life. Like the seniors mentioned in the previous story, he was operated on in the underground surgical suites of the Sarah Weissman Davidson Tower. In additional surgeries, all those special techniques that Hadasah orthopedists have in their toolkit were used, including 3D printing of bone grafts, bone parts. I was so grateful to have my leg, said Shuval. So many soldiers lost limbs, but at Hadasah, they fought successfully to save mine. It's an amazing place. Thank you, Hadasah. Hadasah saves limbs. Hadasah saves lives. Hadasah makes a difference. Join us in supporting Israel, health, education, youth. Israel needs us. We can help, and we can make a difference. Thank you.